Good evening and good evening and welcome to Savage Universe. I am JM, and with me tonight I have John of SavageRiffs.com. John, welcome.
Thank you, sir. Good to be here.
I'm really excited to talk about you. We were hanging out and talking about how much we love Savage Riffs, and we'll get into why you're here in a bit. We won't bury the lead. SavageRiffs.com is having Savage Riffs Con, which is going to be pretty exciting. Let's not bury the lead. Let's inverse the order of the outline.
Sure.
Tell us about SavageRiffs.com and Savage Riffs Con.
Sure. So we're at SavageRiffs.com started right as soon as Savage Riffs for Savage Worlds came out. We were a bunch of people who were playing by post for old school riffs. We saw that Savage Riffs was coming. We parked on the domain name, set up our forums, and moved over a lot of our online gaming to SavageRiffs.com. And so we run games, play by post, so on and so forth. It's evolved now. We've got some weekly VTT games and Discord server and that kind of stuff going. So it's a real community of.
Your mic's cutting in and out, John, all of a sudden.
Is that any better? Is that better?
No, it's weird. I got your mic turned all the way up, and it's all of a sudden it's cutting in and out.
How's that one?
Much better.
Okay, well, we'll use that. Hopefully my kids don't scream. It's a much more open mic.
Today has been plagued by technical difficulties, and I blame the Lunar Empire, but that's neither here nor there. All right, SavageRiffs.com.
Yeah, we started as soon as Savage Riffs was announced. We parked on the domain name. A bunch of us were already playing regular riffs by post, on forums. And so we decided, hey, we're going to switch over to Savage Riffs when it comes out. And so we started doing that, playing on forums. It's turned into a real community of people. We have some VTT games, a Discord server, and it's great fun. And then we just decided this year, hey, you know what? It'd be good to take advantage of the fact we got a lot of people who know how to use VTTs, a lot of people playing online. In fact, our whole community plays online. And so, hey, why not have a little con and get everybody together in the summer for some riffs? And not just riffs, actually. The con has games. We have a Titan Effect game. Manu is going to run Sprawl Runners 2. Spoilers, reveals for Sprawl Runners 2. There's still 2 seats left in that game if somebody wants in. So we've got a couple other non-riffs games, too, because Savage Worlds, it's fun no matter what you're playing.
Well, let me put the link to the con in there again. If you go over to that website, you can get access to the Discord server. You got the con sign up. We're looking for GMs and we're looking for players, right?
Yeah, right now I think there's about 20 games right now. All of them have some open seats, so that's a pretty good start. But we could take a few more GMs, and certainly players are more than welcome now to kind of go and fill up those first 20 games.
Well, let's start off. So you were running a bunch of riffs. What's your experience with the Riffs oeuvre?
Oh my goodness. Very early on. I started out a long time ago. I went to a Boy Scout camp. I was like 12 years old, and the guy had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Other Strange Things. And we played that, and it was so much fun. And, but they were the comic book turtles, darker, not TV turtles. Yeah. And I went home and I told my dad, hey, we had so much fun. We played Ninja Turtles. I threw the sigh and it went to the guy's eyes. My dad said, what the hell are you talking about? But we got playing Ninja Turtles and then Robotech, and then Riffs came out. Mm-hmm. And we were like, oh, wow, it's like Ninja Turtles and Robotech at the same time.
That's right.
With magic. And so we just like
Palladium Fantasy, kind of all mixed
we were all in. And so we bought the first books and we played Riffs. So when I was in high school and then in college, I ran a small group, but then it started to get hard to find players. So I switched online really early, did a lot of like early play by email and play by post and things like that. And that's how I connected to it, even as, life kind of drifted and that kind of stuff.
So I got the opportunity to hang out with Kevin and Sean at Chaosium Con. And I was telling them I was playing Star Wars and BattleTech and GURPS. Those were my games in middle school. But it seemed like I could not pick up a Marvel comic without seeing these ads for Rifts. They had the Skelebots and they had the cool, the
Oh yeah.
boy logo. And I was like, what is this game? And I got it freshman year of high school, and I never looked back. Like I
Mhm.
ran Rifts exclusively, aside from like taking over a buddy's Shadowrun game for a session or two, or maybe going back to a GURPS game. But man, Heroes Unlimited, I had Heroes Unlimited. That was the first game I owned, and I had no clue that it was a game.
Right.
A reference manual for making comic book characters and then being able to adjudicate who would win in a fight. And it wasn't until I played a game in middle school that I went, aha, this is how this works.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. And it's fun. It's a lot more fun than, to me, video games and other things, because
Mhm.
you could just make your own stories and have your own fun and do your own thing. I couldn't always have the latest and greatest growing up, but somebody always had a book. They're pretty dog-eared. I think
Oh yeah.
my Riff's book is maybe my second or third one, and it's 1994 printing or something like
Oh
that.
wow.
So,
Yeah. I've gone through many a copy of the core book and many a copy of the Ultimate. I remember when Ultimate came out, and I was just so excited that we're going to get this. They put out the Ultimate, and then the GM's Guide and the Book of Magic, and we had like this reference set that was just perfect. Ted Ribbletech makes me think that it's a Robotech game where you actually have frog people piloting, and I would be there for that, and it would fit in.
Battletoads Robotech or something.
Battletoads Robotech. Did
Keep
you ever
it the
play
80s
any
vibe.
Palladium Fantasy?
A little bit, ran some games here and there. The lore was pretty deep, but
Mhm.
no, really, it was pretty much all Riffs all the
Pretty
time.
much all Rifts all the time. All right, so I've got to ask, what's your favorite OCC?
OG, OCC?
Yeah, OG OCC. I mean, like,
Oh,
I'm
Headhunter.
current all the way through. My knowledge is current all the way through like Phase World, 3 or 4, and we were just talking about the Russia books. So I've got a swath.
Oh, long time Headhunter, the first book, Headhunter, the guy walking through the water with the cybernetic guy, and I played. Love that. Love that. That's probably my classic one. Yeah.
I always loved the Leyline Walker, like
Oh,
that,
yeah.
like with the robes and the gas mask and the goggles. Just
It was the Leyline Walker that sold me on Savage Rifts. It's that image of the Leyline Walker. It's my icon, actually, my avatar, of like with the shield up and the magic's going against it or whatever, and it's stopping it. Like when you see that art full size, somebody actually made a print of it for me, like big to hang on the wall. It's beautiful, and that artwork just told me, hey, they know what they're doing. They got the Rifts thing right. I'm in.
well, and that brings us to, I mean, you and I were talking about it. What brought us into Savage Worlds? Like I had dabbled with Savage Worlds, played a couple, a little bit of Deadlands Reloaded. I think I had the Explorer edition, the little, $10
Oh yeah, the $10 book. Yeah.
intro to Savage Worlds. But man, when it was the tattooed man from Atlantis. I love the Undead Hunter.
Oh, the Undead Slayers. Yeah.
Yeah, Undead Slayer,
With the tank,
one of my top favorite, like tattoo magic. The Sunaj Assassins, that kind of, they're the Roman, Janus kind of reversed. I thought that was brilliant. Atlantis was a core memory. Like a lot of how I run games kind of keeps coming back to stuff that I learned early on in Rifts. But the reason I got into Savage Worlds was, I mean, I don't want to say I was a sucker, but I mean, I went all in on Savage Rifts. And then they were like, oh, well, but now we have a Suede edition. And I was like, well, I have to have the newest edition, don't I? and I went all in Savage Worlds. That's what started this, massive love affair that I have with it. What was your introduction to Savage Rifts? What are your thoughts on Savage Worlds? We won't compare and contrast Palladium and
No. I mean, I've written for both, so I mean, I have a good handle on both sides of the house there when it comes to Palladium and Savage Worlds. What drew me to it, I think, was because we play a lot online, we didn't need all the rules. And so something that was faster and, a little quicker, had a little bit more narrative flair and those kind of things actually was useful to us. I didn't know anything about Savage Worlds. I had to ask a buddy of mine, and he showed it to me, the deluxe book, like you were talking about. Then we said, well, how would we make riffs? Because we're pretty smart and we know it. So we made it based on what was in the book, but what they came out with blew us away in terms of like how they used iconic frameworks and really loaded in the power. And, basically you were playing supers, and it was just really well done. So that drew me in, the simplicity of it, the Savage Worlds, the newness, the art, color art, the more modern design. I like the old line art, in the Palladium stuff. It's classic, looks fantastic. Just for whatever, it just all drew me in as a good chance to dive back in with both feet, kind of thing.
I think one of the things that I love most about Savage Rifts, and don't get me wrong, I mean, I've played hundreds, if not thousands of hours of Rifts, but we were talking about how at some point we all kind of realize, wait a second, everything's now MDC, right? You had, Rifts, the early conversion books, the early source books, all the way through maybe Africa, Triax, and the NGR. The idea was you're still like a mortal person for 90% of the OCCs. And if you weren't, you were some sort of cyborg, and there were detriments to that. I always loved the idea that there was this tension in the early Rifts books of you're protecting humanity by becoming something other than human.
Yeah, there was a huge transhuman element that got lost, I think, later. When you look at the core classes of Juicer and Cyborg and Crazy, even the magic users, they're making packs, and so everybody's trying to survive, and they're trying to use what they can to survive. And then, it changes a little bit. You get, all these different, ancestries, all these different alien beings, all these different things happening. And maybe you can get lost in all that and lose, like, what we started with, which was just the main book, source book 1. You know, like that was what we had for the first little while, and that's kind of the core experience to me. And Savage Worlds can get you that if you want it, because a guy with a laser rifle is deadly. The L20, which is like your stock black market rifle, has killed more players, I think, than the boom gun. So those acing D6s are you got to watch out, man.
Hey, but I love the way Savage Worlds handles the difference between MDC and SDC. It's not that, well, you got hit by an MDC, a 1d4 Wilkes laser pistol and were, vaporized. Grievous injuries obviously make it deadly, but the heavy armor rule kind of heavy weapon rule applying, I love.
I think it's gold. Like you get shot with a non-heavy weapon, it doesn't hurt you. It's like if you shot a tank with a handgun, right?
Which is always the example they gave.
Yeah,
right.
You can't hit a tank with a baseball bat and wear it down.
Exactly.
That was the example in the book.
I love it.
Yeah. And I think it's perfect, and it does it very well. And then the other way, you don't get vaporized, but you get pretty messed up with the gritty damage rule. You could get your arm messed up or whatever, and so I find it's pretty good.
Guts are always broken. It
seems to be the one that always rolls on the table. Guts.
Yeah. At my table, people are just walking around with broken guts, kind of all the time. All right. Well, let me ask you this: if Headhunter was your go-to favorite in standard Rifts, what's your favorite iconic framework? Because now we're up to 9 core books, and then the box set, Terror on the Dark Frontier.
Okay, so let's see. My favorite to play, I don't play much, actually. I GM mostly. But mostly I gravitate towards the Mars iconic frameworks in general.
Okay.
So Mercenaries, the Wilderness Scouts, that kind of stuff. I've played Ley Linewalkers. I guess the one I like the best is the the Paradox Shaman in Terra and the Dark Frontier.
Yeah.
Mostly because I made it. It has nothing to do with like, playing it or something. But I always liked that in the original lore, like this defender from the supernatural who was here even before like the rifts erupted or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's this continuity with the history and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of a fun thing.
Now, if I remember correctly, I think I talked about it in my Terror in the Dark Frontier review. Wasn't the Paradox Shaman the one that had the weird OCC ability that all damage it took was SDC because reality kind of warped?
Yeah,
around?
like it just all kind of turned to SDC, right?
Yeah,
So they didn't get vaporized,
Yeah.
So here we can just say they're immune to gritty damage if we want, and
Yeah.
away we go.
So Cripright pointed out that you were the driving force behind getting the VTT to run so smoothly, and I'm running. We're on hiatus right now. We switched back over to our Savage Pathfinder campaign, run by the illustrious John Doom. But let's talk about that. Like, I would have to say my favorite change, iconic framework wise.
Mm-hmm.
I love juicers. I love the ideas of juicers.
Oh yeah, that is an amazing move.
But no one in my regular Rifts game ever worried about burnout.
Mm-hmm.
Every juicer in my Savage Rifts game worries about burnout because that burnout clock is ticking from the moment you make your character, and I love that mechanic.
No, it really brings them to life. I always play juicers in one shots, and then I just burn everything.
Everything you do is you're just rolling the burn.
If it's an agility based roll, burn. Strength based roll, burn. Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay, so talk about the VTT because it is slick. It is comprehensive. It runs great.
Oh, I think so. The Savage Rifts and all the Savage Worlds products on Foundry VTT, I work with the team that helps develop those. Rifts is kind of my baby, I guess. It's taken a bunch of time as Foundry just turned 4, which in some ways is amazing, but like it's developing all the time. So you're always trying to say, how do we take advantage of the new things that are coming and that kind of stuff. So I really like how the Tomorrow Legion Player's Guide is set up for Foundry. I just think you drag the iconic framework onto the character sheet, all the things happen and occur that should, the strength goes up or the skill gets added or whatever. So I find that's very good. The product itself takes a lot of things that you normally have to have open on the table. So like if you have the Tomorrow Legion Player's Guide and the new Mega Powers list with all the powers and the new modifiers in it, and the archetype cards or whatever, all those are right there in the VTT for you, just in the Player's Guide. So it's like 3 or 4 things kind of laid out the way you need them, when you need them, and how you need them. And then I find that's great. And if you shoot the gun and it's an ROF3 gun, it shoots 3 shots. And I find it takes away some of the friction because Rifts, if you're coming from even regular Savage Worlds, if you're a regular Savage Worlds player, there's just so much more happening on the sheet right out of the gate, right at novice. And so
just compare the archetypes for Deadlands to the archetype for Savage Rift. We have to like double the amount of space.
Yeah, we had to make up this whole new design with the book and everything, right? And it's amazing. And Deadlands doesn't even have like non-humans, right? So Deadlands is like simple. And then we have a thing in the VTT say, if we can make it work on Rifts, it'll work for the rest of Savage Worlds. So it's also become our kind of test bed for how to do things, deploy things, try things that might be coming out or more complicated or something like that too. And so as a result, it's been tested. The users have been great sending in feedback. They haven't always been kind, but they've been good to send it in. And we've been able to get the thing really improved. And I think it's at a really high level right now. And if you're a Foundry person or into VTT in general, all PEG's Foundry products are on sale, 25% off right now for Foundry's 4th anniversary. So you could buy something like the Fantasy Companion, and the discount's enough that you get the core rules for free. So it's a great deal.
I cannot speak highly enough of running games on Foundry, as well as running Savage Worlds on Foundry. I have run many, many games now, and it's fantastic.
I love it, and it's also the only way I get to play, so I really appreciate it. And I think when making modules and that kind of stuff, I really do try to say, well, how do I want this set up? Because I'm going to use this on Wednesday, and so I want it to work this way as someone who's a GM. Now, the cool thing about Foundry is there's lots of different ways to accomplish a thing.
Yes.
And so sometimes you'll run into that, like what's the difference between a preference and a feature? Like, I would do it this way, or I would do it that way. They both work. So I try to do it from a perspective of someone who's running a game as a GM. How would I want this to flow if it comes down to like a preference choice like that?
And I will say, John Doom, when we come back to Savage Rifts, John gave me some advice on how to kind of those mega power enhancements for your zapper powers may be the key that you've been looking for.
Oh, good. I'm glad I can help. Yeah, if you can get screwed as a GM, my players have found a way. So just hit me up anytime.
Excellent. Well, let's do one last plug for I know this was going to be a short one for the con. Let me put this back in the chat. This is go to savagerifts.com/con, and that will get you to the sign up both for the games that are still open. John said there's 20 games kind of going on for this weekend. It's July. Sorry.
17, yep.
July 17 is when it kicks off. John, thanks for coming on and hanging out and chatting about Savage Rifts. I love the game and the setting, and I'm very excited about this. Venkel has a good question. Are all the con games on Foundry? I think there's some on Roll20. Is that correct?
Some are on Roll20, and I think like Manu doesn't use a VTT at all, so it'll probably be Discord with him putting the cards on the table in front of him and something like that. So whatever the GM wants to do, it's not forcing anybody. It's not like a Foundry con or a Roll20 con. It's a Rifts and Savage Worlds con, but we're playing online, and however the GM is comfortable doing that, that's what we're going to use. All my games are in Foundry. I don't know if there's one Roll20 game, I think. So
Cryptray says Fantasy Grounds as well.
Oh yeah, there's a Fantasy Grounds game. A guy's even going to do a workshop on Fantasy Grounds and setting it up. And then I said, well, maybe I need to do a Foundry workshop, so we didn't, have just one representation. So we might throw that in there too as kind of a thing, or might do a video.
9 Worlds. Mike is talking about, and there's many VTT options.
Yeah, 9 Worlds, I think Wright mentioned it too. That's just my own personal setting that I'm working on. It's pretty cool. It's Vikings, but in a cyberpunk environment, and it's Norse mythology mixed with everything you kind of think about in terms of instead of Shadowrun with like Tolkien type races or whatever, everything comes from Norse mythology a little tighter.
Oh, I'm here for it.
And so it's a lot of fun, and we're running a game with playtesters on Wednesday night, and I got the Jumpstart adventure coming out soon, and so we're going to run the Jumpstart at the con for folks. I think there's 2 seats left in that if people find it.
Mike's plugging it.
He better. Yeah.
Well, John, thank you so much. This was awesome.
Yeah, thank you. It's good to be here, and I'm glad to spend the time. I hope people can sign up and join us for the con because it's just going to be fun. We're just going to play a lot of Savage Worlds, a lot of Savage Rifts, and our community is a pretty good place to hang out. Unless you say like one iconic framework is better than the other, then we got to put you on timeout because it's starting a war.
We'll be back next week on Savage Universe. We're going to be talking with with Peter from. Let me pull up my notes.
Yeah, I like the word Viking punk, Squid, or Norse punk. I haven't decided yet.
We're going to be talking with Peter of Pear Tree Studios, an ACE licensee. Yes, John Doom from Pear Tree. And one last little plug, and I will say it's partially shameless. The secret world for Savage Worlds has just crossed 53,859 backers, and they've got 51 hours left on their Kickstarter. If you haven't gone and checked it out, please go do so. It's not as shameless as the first time I mentioned it on Savage Universe because that was to unlock the adventure that I'm writing for them. That's been unlocked. But go out and support Star Anvil Studios. Great company doing a lot of fun stuff with Savage Worlds. And that's the whole point of Savage Universe, is to shout it from the rooftops when cool things come out. So when your Cyberpunk Vikings come out, please let me know. When Nine Worlds comes out, the Jumpstart releases, we'll have you back on. We'll talk about Nine Worlds.
Okay, yeah, that'll be a lot of fun.
Awesome. All right, everyone. Until next time, go out and play some Savage Rifts. I'm JM. This has been Savage Universe, and may all your dice ace.
Except on Soak Rose.